Pertamina is an Indonesian state-owned oil and natural gas corporation based in Jakarta. It was created in August 1968 by the merger of Pertamin and Permina. The firm is currently the second largest crude oil producer in Indonesia behind the US-based Chevron Pacific Indonesia. In 2013, for the first time, Pertamina ranked No. 122 in the Fortune Global 500 list of companies with revenues totaling to $70.9 billion. Pertamina is also the sole Indonesian company to be featured in the list. History: nationalization. In 1957, Dutch assets in petroleum were nationalized, from which Pertamina was founded as a state-owned oil monopoly, headed by Lieutenant General Ibnu Sutowo. Ibnu Sutowo's position as the second deputy of Abdul Haris Nasution was the beginning of the army's involvement in the oil industry. Pertamina distributed oil for the entire archipelago. Pertamina founded the Apprentice Technical School in Brandon to train and produce experts in the field. To meet this goal, Pertamina established the Oil Academy in Bandung at 1962. Oil Academy's curriculum pertains to the technical aspects of the oil industry, and the graduates turned into the main forces in Pertamin. In 1960, the Congress enacted a policy that the mining of Indonesian oil and ground gases are only permitted for the state, through a state-administered company. Pertamin, established in 1961, was responsible for the administration, management and controlling of the exploration and production. The policy was short-lived. An agreement between the state and foreign companies was affirmed that gradually, oil refinery manufactures and other assets in marketing and distribution were to be sold to Indonesia within 5 to 15 years. In 1968, to consolidate oil and gas industry for its management, exploration, marketing and distribution, Permina and Pertamin merged and became PN Pertamina. It continued to do little drilling itself but made production sharing agreements with foreign companies. The 1970s. After the merge, Pertamina's production rose considerably. By the end of 1973, it directly produced 28.2% of Indonesia's oil, with agreements of Caltex and Stanvac to produce the rest. Its assets included 7 refineries, oil terminals, 116 tankers, 102 other vessels and an airline. It was also active in cement, fertilizer, liquid natural gas, steel, hospitals, real estate, a rice estate, and telecommunications. The 1974 oil price increases produced revenues of $4.2 billion in that year, equivalent to approximately 1/6 of Indonesia's gross domestic product. Much of this revenue was used by Sutowo to expand Pertamina's interests far beyond oil production to include investments in oil tankers, steel and construction. Pertamina built the Bina Graha, the presidential executive office building in Jakarta. The global oil crisis of the 1970s greatly increased oil prices and profits. Pertamina initially provided a fiscal lift to the hopes of Indonesia's development planners. For President Suharto and other members of the ruling elite, revenue from Pertamina was an ongoing source of funding. Without accountability, they ran this cash cow into the ground, using it for both military and personal ends. Historian Adrian Vickers describes the endemic corruption at Pertamina. At each stage of the transaction chain, somebody was getting a percentage. If accidents occurred, as in 1972 when 80 impoverished people died, they could be covered up. In 1973, the government's ability to borrow money from overseas was constrained, and Pertamina was no longer providing revenues to the state. Instead, the massive enterprise turned out not to be making money, but compiling exponentially large losses. In February 1975, Pertamina could no longer pay its American and Canadian creditors. An investigation followed, which revealed over $10 billion in debts, mismanagement, and corruption within the company. This debt was equivalent to approximately 30% of Indonesia's GNP at the time. Others offer a figure over $15 billion debt. A public investigation hurt the reputation of the national elite both among Indonesians and foreigners. The man most responsible for the collapse, Bruce Rappaport, was never charged. The charges against Ibnu Sutowo were dismissed. Ibnu Sutowo and his family were among the richest and most powerful in Indonesia into the 21st century. The government took over the operation of the company and sought means by which to repay its debts. Pertamina's debt problems were eventually solved through a large government bailout, which nearly doubled Indonesia's foreign debt. Since the 1980s, human rights observers have long expressed concerns about Indonesia's hostility to labor unions. According to the multinational Monitor, in 1985 the government ordered the firing of over 1,600 workers at Pertamina and foreign oil companies, charging that they had been members of the Indonesian Communist Party, which had been banned 19 years earlier when Suharto took power. Quote, in 2003 Pertamina legally became PT. Pertamina, as per the enactment of Government Regulation No. 31 2003. Pertamina is now under the coordinator of the State Minister of State-Owned Enterprises. Like other contractors, Pertamina holds cooperation contract to the oil and gas regulatory body. With its transformation into a limited liability company, Pertamina has become a business entity with the main target of making a profit. Management. During the 1970s until 1976, the president-director of Pertamina was Ibnu Sutowo, a well-known figure in Indonesia. Since then, there have been a number of president-directors. Recent president-directors have included the following: Sujianto Marshno Hadianto. Before his appointment as president-director of Pertamina, Marshno was briefly finance director of the state-owned airline company Garuda Indonesia. Baihaqi Hakim Baihaqi was formerly president of Chevron Texaco's subsidiary in Indonesia, PT Caltex Pacific Indonesia. He was appointed as president-director of Pertamina by President Abdurrahman Wahid in 2000. Subsequent to his resignation in 2003, there was controversy surrounding decisions taken in Pertamina during his period as president-director concerning the purchase of giant tankers for the transport of oil. Arifinawawi Widupurnama was appointed from outside of the energy sector, formerly having been president of the Indonesian telecommunications company PT Indosat. Ari Hernanto Somano, Karanagustion. In February 2009 it was announced that Karanagustion would become president-director of Pertamina for a 5-year term. Her appointment was extended in 2013. She resigned for unannounced reasons in August 2014. It was said at the time that she had plans to teach in Harvard University in the United States. DWISO-Egypto. In November 2014, the new president of Indonesia, Joko Widodo, announced a major reorganization of the board of Pertamina as part of a series of reform measures for the energy sector. A new president-director, DWISO-Egypto, was appointed along with a number of new members to the board. The appointment of DWISO-Egypto, previously president-director of the major state-owned cement firm PT Semen Indonesia, Indonesia, attracted media attention because unlike most previous president-directors of Pertamina, he had little previous experience in the oil sector. Facilities. Refineries. Pertamina has not built any new refineries since the Balongan refinery was opened in West Java in the mid-1990s. PTT Public Company Limited and Pertamina signed into partnership to build a new petrochemical complex in Indonesia for an estimated cost of US $4 to $5 billion. Currently Pertamina owns 6 oil refineries which have a total combined capacity of around 1 million BOPD. Source: Indonesian Ministry of Energy and Resources, 2012 Handbook of Energy and Economic Statistics of Indonesia. There are several other refineries in Indonesia which Pertamina has responsibilities for. Source: Indonesian Ministry of Energy and Resources, 2012 Handbook of Energy and Economic Statistics of Indonesia. In addition to the refineries which Pertamina owns, Pertamina has invested in 2 operating companies which manage output from LNG plants. PT Badak LNG operates a plant in Bontang, East Kalimantan, with 8 trains having a total capacity of 22.5 million tons per annum. PT Donggi Senyoro LNG in USO Village, Batui Subdistrict, Bangai Regency, Central Sulawesi Province, with 1 train with a capacity of 2 million tons per annum. Pertamina also invested in the PT Arun 6 LNG trains near Loksumor, ACEH, which had a total capacity of 12.5 million tons per annum. They closed down due to lack of feed gas in 2014, and now Arun is used an LNG import terminal. During 2012 and early 2013 it was announced several times that there were plans to build 2 more large fuel refineries, each with a capacity of around 300,000 BOPD, perhaps in Balongan, West Java, and in Tuban, East Java. The first facility was planned to be built by Pertamina in partnership with Kuwait Petroleum, while the second was expected to be built by Pertamina in cooperation with Saudi Aramco. Total investment was expected to be around $20 billion. One main problem holding up agreement to build the refineries was the issue of financial concessions to be provided for the foreign investors. Eventually, in September 2013, it was announced that the plans for the first refinery had been cancelled. At the same time, the government said that there were plans for yet a different refinery project which would be constructed solely by Pertamina and funded by the state. The crude oil for this alternative project was expected to be supplied from Iraq. Pending further progress on these large investment plans, Pertamina has announced plans to upgrade the existing refineries so as to add around 500,000 BOPD to Pertamina's current refining capacity of around 1 million BOPD. Pertamina also has 2 gas reserves and a petrochemical company. Pertamina's products include a great variety of fuels, chemicals, additives, and retail products. Gas stations. Pertamina has by far the largest distribution network of petroleum products in Indonesia and is familiar to virtually all Indonesian citizens. Subsidiaries. Pertamina EP. PT Pertamina EP is engaged in managing the upstream oil and gas production through a more manageable exploration and exploitation activities. Adding to that, PEP has been undertaking other supporting businesses, which have been intended to back up the main business directly or indirectly. Presently, Pertamina EP production level for oil is around 127,635,000 barrel oil per day and around 1,054 million standard cubic feet per day for gas. Pertamina EP working areas of 140.00 square kilometers were once largely PT Pertamina's oil and gas mining authority's own. The working areas are managed through own operation and partnership cooperation. Pertamina EP working areas consist of 5 assets. The operation of those assets comprise 19 field areas, namely Rantau, Pangkalan Susu, Lirik, Jambi and Ramba in Asset 1, Prabamali, Adara, Limasan Pendobo in Asset 2, Tambun, Sabang and Jati Barang in Asset 3, CEPU in Asset 4 as well as Sangatta, Sangasanga, Banyu, Tarakan, Tanjung and Papua in Asset 5. Beside the management of working areas as stated earlier, other business pattern is management through projects, such as Pondok Makmur Development Project in West Java, Paku Gajah Development Project in South Sumatra, Jawa Gas Development Project in Central Java, and Matendok Gas Development Project in Central Sulawesi. Pertamina Gas. Pertamina established PT Pertagas on 23 February 2007, and it became PT Pertamina Gas in 2008. The company undertakes gas transportation, trading and processing. In the gas transmission business, Pertamina owns a gas pipeline network with a total volume of 34,000 km in northern Sumatra, central Sumatra, southern Sumatra, western Java, eastern Java, and East Kalimantan. In January 2009, PT Pertamina Gas obtained a transportation permit, and in February 2009, it received an exclusive right from BPH Migas for gas transportation along 43 transmission routes. These permit and exclusive rights complemented the business permit that had been issued previously. By obtaining a business license and special rights, PT Pertamina Gas now has a regulatory basis to play the principal role in the gas business in Indonesia. Pertamina Geothermal Energy, PGE, was founded on 12 December 2006. This Pertamina subsidiary carries out geothermal exploration and exploitation in 15 working areas in Indonesia, namely, Sebayak Sinabung, Sebubuali Sarula, Sungai Penyusumurab, Tambang Salwe Hulele, Lumut Balai, Wepanazolubalu, Siberam Parabakti, Pengalengan, Kamojang Darajat, Karahatalagabodas, Dayang, Yang Agapuro, Tabanan Bali, Lahandong Tompaso and Kotamo Bagu. Pertamina EPCEPU, PEPCEPU, which was established on 14 September 2005, is a subsidiary of PT Pertamina that focuses on the upstream oil and gas business. In the CEPU block, Pertamina has a 45% interest in partnership with Mobile CEPU Limited and the regional-owned enterprise that manages the KKS from the CEPU block. Pertamina Drilling Services Indonesia PTPDSI was established on 13 June 2008 as a drilling service management business entity. The services provided comprise drilling, workover activities, and drilling services that use a daily rate and integrated drilling management system for oil, gas, and geothermal wells. Presently, PTPDSI owns 34 drilling rigs. Pertamina Hulu Energy is one of the upstream directorate subsidiaries working in the oil and gas upstream business, and is also an upstream business vehicle for managing the domestic and overseas cooperation portfolio in the form of production sharing contracts, joint operating body production sharing contracts, Indonesian participating, Pertamina participating interests and Badan Operasi Bersama. PHE's overseas working areas covered: Western Desert Block 3, Iraq, Block 10 Annam, 11.1, offshore South Vietnam, Block SK 305, offshore Sarawak, Malaysia, Sabrata 17-3 Block, offshore Libya, Cert 123-3 Block, Libya, Block 13, Red Sea, offshore Sudan, Block 3, offshore Qatar, and Baskamantagami Block, Australia. Products. There are various Pertamina products consisting of fuel, non-fuel, gas, petrochemical products, and lubricants. Financial summary. Pertamina summary balance sheet as at the 31st of December 2012 data: total sales $70.9 billion, gross profit $6.9 billion, net profit $2.8 billion. Source: Pertamina Investor Relations website. Sports sponsorships. Pertamina is sponsoring Indonesia's first Formula One driver, Rio Haryanto, for the 2016 season. Pertamina also sponsors GP2 Team Campos Racing.